welcome to Guardians of Tyr. My name's Barry. Today we have round one of a pitch battle tournament that was held at iBuy Wargames in Woking. Both deck construction and match formats were in effect, so that's champions, side decks, best of 3 matches and champion placement. There were 14 players present on the day, which was really encouraging considering it was the first tournament that iBuy Wargames have held. It was a mixture of regulars, players from London and the 6 of us from Northampton. So that meant the tournament would be 4 rounds and then a top cut of 4. This game is between Steve and Mike, both playing Death. Which player has Nagash's favour? So Steve has Coven Throne, a Spirit Torment, a Hungering Vampire Lord and a Hell Knight. And Mike has Skeleton Champion, 2 Abhorrent Ghoul Kings and a Crypt Infernal Courtier. Steve's gone first and he's picked 2 cards, and Mike's laid a Feasting Vargeist. So Mike's going to get some health back on the next rotation, and then draw some cards. Okay, we've got Salt Feast going on, so it can only be played by a vampire, and next turn he is going to heal for 6. So Mike heals for 1. Mike lays a Ravenous Crypt Ghoul, so that's a constant dealing damage unit, and draws a card. So removes that Feasting Vargeist, heals for 6. So Mike doesn't get his 2 card draw next turn. Hits the second quest on that Coven Throne. And then an Infected Terrorgeist goes into play, so that's going to deal 7 damage in total. He's got to discard a card, so Murderous Vargeist goes away. And draws a card. So 1 damage from the Ravenous Crypt Ghoul. So Mike's deck is normally packing loads of events. He plays the event through the Crypt Ghoul Courtier with the Abhorrent Ghoul Kings plussing damage to it. So we've got Fearsome Crypt Flyer going into play. So that's going to deal 4 damage overall. And Black Hunger goes into play, so it's going to increase the damage from all Mordant units. So next turn, that Fearsome Crypt Flyer is going to deal 4 damage instead of 2. Any units that are deployed opposite will be dormant on the Fearsome Crypt Flyer's next rotation. So Frenzied Vargeist goes in, so hits the first quest on Vampire Lord, but normally it's going to remove that Fearsome Crypt Flyer, but it's not, because Mike will make it dormant before that Frenzied Vargeist can do its effect. Steve draws a card. There we go. So 4 damage overall for the Fearsome Crypt Flyer because of that Black Hunger. So, and the Ravenous Crypt Ghoul normally deals 3, but Black Hunger strikes again, increasing it by 2. Another Fearsome Crypt Flyer going into play. So loads of extra damage going in. It's more like facing a Chaos deck at the minute, looking at what Mike's got. So 3 damage from the Infected Terrorgeist. It's going to do 4 damage next turn. If Mike decides to remove it, it's got a last stand of deal 4 damage. So he's going to take that anyway. So Steve draws 2. Mike goes again. Ravenous Crypt comes out. 4 damage from the Fearsome Crypt Flayer. And another 4 from the one at the top, because Black Hunger is increasing both those units' damage. So Mike draws 2. Over to Steve. Infected Terrorgeist is going to hit for 4. So some of you may have noticed Mike's life counter. It's not using the normal counter. He's painted up a ghoul. So yeah, it's cool. So he has a little ghoul marking his health. There was another chap at the tournament that had a Chaos Warrior that was his life tracker. So it was really cool that people have started painting figures up for this game and using them. So a Soul Stealer played for Steve. So it's going to do 4 rend damage and heal for 4 when it gets round to its final corner. And then another Infected Terrorgeist going into play. So looks like he's got rid of a Feasting Vargeist to put that into play. Just 2 damage this time from the Fearsome Crypt Flayer, because Black Hunger has rotated out. Mike plays a Frenzied Vargeist. So he's going to remove the Infected Terrorgeist, gain an additional action. He will take 4 damage for doing that though, because of the last stand on the Infected Terrorgeist. But overall it's better than taking 7. So 1 damage from the Frenzied Vargeist. No additional effects because Mike doesn't have a unit in front of it anymore. For those who've never been to iBuy Wargames, it's a small store with absolutely loads going on. It's got a downstairs and upstairs seating, which has run multiple regionals for other game systems in the past. The staff, Tom and Chris, were very friendly, extremely helpful. They didn't know I was turning up with all my filming equipment, but they quickly set a table down, which was big enough for me to put all my camera stands and all my extra plugs and sockets on. So that was so good of them. The store itself is situated in the heart of the town, at the end of Chertsey Road. You can walk out the store, turn right, walk up the road, and you've got loads of eating facilities there. You can take your pick. And parking on a Sunday was fantastic. It was only £3 to park for the whole day. So what more could you ask? Go down to iBuy and join in the tournaments there. It is really good. So let's go. Fearsome Crypt Flayer goes out. Frenzied Vargeist does 1, removes the Infected Terrorgeist, and then Mike takes 4. Devour, get rid of Soul Stealer. Takes a unit from his discard pile, puts it back in his deck. Ravenous Crypt goes into play, completes the quest on Skeleton Champion, revealing Turmoil of Souls. Deals 4 damage and makes Steve discard 2 cards and put them back into his deck. So Mark's going to draw a card. That's the end of his turn. So I think Steve's got 1 card left in his hand. So Steve decides to draw 2 cards. Passes go. 1 damage from the Ravenous Crypt Ghouls. Opportunity strike for 7 damage in total because it's gone through the Crypt Ghoul Courtier, and finishes Steve off with the Heroic Act. So game 1 goes to Mike. So we're going to see what Steve can do in game 2 and try and get himself back into this match. Okay, here we go. Steve's decided to go first, and he lays his Spirit Torment in. Mike puts down his Skeleton Champion and his Crypt Ghoul Courtier. So Hungering Vampire Lord and a Hell Knight, followed by 2 Abhorrent Ghoul Kings and the Coven Throne. Okay, so it's whether or not Mike's going to get his get all his Mordants firing under that Black Hunger again, or Steve can wrestle himself back into this match. Okay, opportunity strike for 7 from Mike because of the Abhorrent Ghoul Kings increase in the damage because the ability went through the Crypt Ghoul Courtier. Yeah, Mike's not too worried about doing the quests on the Crypt Ghoul Courtier. He's just there to put out damage through abilities. So Feasting Vargeist, so he's going to gain some health and draw some cards. So we've got an Infected Terrorgeist going into play. Steve's got a ditch a card. There we go. Murderous Vargeist. And an Unholy Vitality going into play. So try and recoup some of the damage that Mike did to him with that opportunity strike. So Mike gains a health through the Feasting Vargeist. Frightful Touch. So it's going to do 4 damage, and if Steve doesn't control a unit in that lane opposite, then he will discard 2 cards. Mike then draws a card. Infected Terrorgeist spins. So does Unholy Vitality, gaining 2 health. So Steve should really place a card by Spirit Torment because he doesn't really want to be losing cards right away. Okay, so Shrieking Terrorgeist goes into play. That's the ditch a card. So it looks like Serving Death maybe. So draw 2 cards from the Feasting Vargeist. Deals 4 damage with Frightful Touch. So Frightful Strike gets played, 5 damage because it's gone through the Crypt Ghoul Courtier with the Abhorrent Ghoul Kings doing additional damage. Mike draws a card. So 3 damage from the Infected Terrorgeist, 3 damage from the Shrieking Terrorgeist, removes the spell, and he gains 3 health. Now I think Steve is playing his Spirit Torment where he gains health, but he shouldn't have done because it's removing a spell and his ability is remove a unit, so he shouldn't have gained 2 health there. So Serving Death, so it triggers both the Infected Terrorgeist and the Shrieking Terrorgeist, so deals 6 damage in total with that card. Okay, another Feasting Vargeist goes in, should heal himself. And a Frightful Touch going in, so Mike should have given himself 1 health. That Shrieking Terrorgeist is going to leave play, so Steve needs to play another card into the Spirit Torment lane, otherwise he's going to lose cards. 4 damage from the Infected Terrorgeist. Unholy Vitality leaves play with the Shrieking Terrorgeist. So Mike's just noticed what Spirit Torment does. Just letting Steve know that that effect wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have gained the 2 health because it wasn't a unit that was removed, it was a spell. So Steve's drawing 2 cards. Mike's going to heal for 1. 4 damage from Frightful Touch, and now Steve's got to get rid of 2 cards out of his hand, put it back in his deck. So Fearsome Crypt Flayer's going in, and Black Hunger's going in. So we saw this combo before, so that Fearsome Crypt Flayer will increase its damage by 2 on its next 2 rotations. So if Steve puts a unit in front of the Hungering Vampire Lord, that unit's going to be dormant on the Fearsome Crypt Flayer's next rotation. So Steve's drawing 2. Mike's going to draw 2 cards, deal 4 damage. So we've got a Freakish Crypt Horror going into play, so Mike's going to deal damage and heal himself with that card. Plus, next rotation it's going to deal extra damage thanks to that Black Hunger. So more Mordant synergy going on with Mike. So Steve plays a Soul Stealer, so he's going to do 4 Rend. And an Infected Terrorgeist gets rid of a Feasting Vargeist. So Mike does heals for 1 and does 3 damage with the Freakish Crypt Horror, and then he does 4 damage with the Fearsome Crypt Flayer because of Black Hunger again. So Steve is quickly down to 9 health. Devour gets rid of the Soul Stealer. Mike should have drawn a card from his deck, and he's put another Fearsome Crypt Flayer into play. So get Supernatural Horror, so everything's dormant. Infected Terrorgeist is going to do nothing for the next 3 turns. Steve just passes his go, draws 2. So Mike's going to do 2 damage because of that Fearsome Crypt Flayer. Steve's down to 7. 5 damage with Curse Strike, thanks to the Abhorrent Ghoul Kings. Heroic Act with the Crypt Infernal Courtier doing 1 damage. Steve's left on 1. So it's definitely not looking good. All of his units are dormant, so he's just playing cards out of his hand. Mike is going to do 4 damage overall with his units that are in play. Steve's put a Soul Feast in. It's not really going to do anything this turn, and he's not going to be alive to get any benefit out of that card. Okay, so he's taken that back. He's going to discard a card and use Hungering Vampire Lord to gain 2 health, so he's up to 3. Curse Strike for 3 damage. Okay, so 4 damage overall from Mike. Mike takes it 2-0. So well done to Mike. He wins round 1. It's always nice to get a win on the first round. It eases you into the day. We've got more games coming, so stay tuned to the channel, and we'll see you soon. Cheers guys, thank you, bye bye.